Just 22 days left until NFL season, and I've got about 25 drafts left to hit in Underdog Fantasy's Best Ball Mania 4. Of course, $3 million to first place in the preeminent best ball tournament out there. You can see I am already in a draft room waiting to start this one. The room is filled here. The good news is that we're going to do 2 drafts today. Try to bang them out real fast because, frankly, all my drafts right now are on stream. So I got to make sure to get the numbers up here, and I'm excited to draft along today with you guys here on this fine hump day, this fine Wednesday. Trying to do more to talk about what day it is at any given time here because I feel like these draft thumbnails all look the same. So I want each stream to feel differently. But shout out to the chat. Shout out to everybody hanging out here. Looking forward to hearing your takes on Ramondre/Hall after the signings. Talk about that a little bit with Pete as well as in the solo stream, but I'm sure we will hit on it again today. Shout out to Elite Deet, our boy Deet Feet yesterday on the draft stream. If you watched that one, had some wild picks, then came into the comments and reflected upon the fact that he knew when he saw my name in the draft room that I would be making fun of him on stream. So that's the kind of influence we want here for Splash Play. But of course, this draft is already afoot. We got Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase going early. No surprises. Some familiar names in this draft. Of course, the icon, our guy Jeremy going from the 1 hole. Hawkberg going right after me. Short Gamer, a couple picks after that. So we'll see what these guys do. And the rest of these guys, I have no clue who they are. So we'll find out what they like to do in this one coming up. But yeah, fun day here. Plan is to rip off 2 drafts in a row here, then get out of the way for the rest of the streamers to go do their stuff. Our boy Liam, I know, is coming up this afternoon. I know the Swolecast guys going this afternoon. Badge Bros going. So I appreciate you guys, as always, spending some time here with me on Splash Play. We are drafting teams every weekday until the season starts. And I'm also not shaving my beard until the season starts. So you could see me become a squirrely old man right before your eyes. About time I got the first pick. It's been a while. There you go. Any concerns the Amon-Ra and JMO injuries? At this point, nothing yet. I think has seen that I would worry about. I tend to really try to avoid the training camp injuries unless there are, obviously not avoid, but like not avoid in terms of worrying about them too much. For guys, especially that I like, injury stuff. I was debating with somebody in the comments about Rashad Penny's injury history. Guys obviously went out the last 2 years and it's different injuries, but people want to file him away as an injury prone back. But let me see what I'm going to do here. We are in the 6 hole. Travis Kelce is somebody that I want to at least get to the field's 8% exposure on. So I'm going to take him here. I drafted it the other day with our pal Bindles, which was a streamed draft, but was not the usual stream crew here of people filing in. Of course, as Bindles is trying to grow his channel on there. We got Travis Kelce in the 12 hole. So I'm wondering if there are some rooms out there. Maybe you could push Kelce a little bit, get him in that spot where it's a nice 0 RB spot, nice spot to get Nick Chubb or Bijan Robinson. Tony Pollard going 7 to Hawkberg. Okay. So we're going to be in a little bit of a weird room here, I think. Surprised Hawkberg is reaching for Pollard that much. I know people have talked about how he should rise a little bit. Pat and Pete were talking about it on Pete's stream, which might still be going on. Talked about Pollard being a first-round guy now without the threat of Zeke coming back there. And also, no Cook out there to go to the Cowboys. No Zeke. So Fournette, I guess, could still go there if we're looking at the ancient backs who could take some touches away. Kareem Hunt could maybe get an offer from them last minute like he did from the Colts and the Saints. But right now, it does feel like Tony Pollard is perhaps a little bit undervalued, and Hawkberg has proven it, I guess. Russell Gage card off yesterday. Talks of Jarvis Landry Baker reunion. Oh boy, that's really going to drive the Bucks past the awfulness that they're expected. I think the Bucks and the Cards were 2 teams that don't have a single week where they are favored on all the Vegas odds based on some chart I saw on social media this morning. So I've been out on the Bucks for the most part this year, and I don't know that Baker is long for that starting job either way. Even if Kyle Trask is more like Kyle Trash, I do think that Baker is not going to be very long for this world unless he really plays above his head, and then maybe he'll get Jarvis Landry in. Raheem Jarrett going to shine. Trey Palmer, who I've talked about, that is the young Bucks guy that I like the most. But Raheem Jarrett, I know, is a good camp. There's a Tompkins there. I feel like it was also at a pretty okay camp for the Bucks. But to me, Trey Palmer is the one that grades out the best. The guy who can do maybe a bootleg version of Mike Evans' game, especially if we did see the Bucks perhaps calling off the Dogs at the end of the year and a tankathon campaign for Caleb Williams or Drake May. That's the kind of thing where I think a guy like Trey Palmer could actually go off on Week 17 versus New Orleans. But still not a player I think you take in every draft or anything. But I do have my shares of Trey Palmer. You've seen me take him on stream a few times. Yeah, I got him here. Kyle Trask, more like Kyle Trask. Thank you, man. Thank you. I have an early workshop in that one. The writer's room is working heavy overtime here on Splash Play. Now they're going to 5 days a week. And thankfully, they're not SAG-AFTRA. They're not affiliated with any of the writers' guilds. So they can give me all the great jokes that I can't make myself. Fantasy dad is out here. Thank you. I will. That sounds erotic when we put it like that, but I accept it. I'll be anybody's fantasy daddy if they ask nicely. Probably not a zaddy. I don't want to be a zaddy. All my Pollard bags and the big board looking good. Yeah, you are probably going to get some nice closing line value here on Pollard, even though I don't know that he's actually changed very much as a play, but we can talk about that as we go. So this is a tough part here. I don't know that there's enough badges on this side of the board to push Mahomes. A guy like Jeremy's a wild card and always loves taking elite QBs for no reason. Do I need Mahomes here? There's a lot of FUD recently about elite QBs, and I've never believed in it as much as the public has. So I'm actually going to take Chris Olave here. Maybe we can push Mahomes. I don't think we're going to be able to, but to me, the main thing is what I've talked about a few times on the streams lately. Elite QBs are great. They give you a guaranteed amount of production and all of that. That said, the whole point of QB for the most part is that any QB can give you a certain amount of points there. And if anything, other QBs who are going with lower ADP guys, they can drive the value up to that entire stack. So for me, that's been a thing where I am underweight on all the top elite QBs. For guys like Lamar and Justin Fields, I go over a little bit more because they're going late enough that I think you can justify it. But I think it's worth trying to push Mahomes here. If we get him back, great. If we don't get him back, then what are we going to do? Worth a shot. Did a Kelce, Olave, Mahomes start before? You could definitely get away with pushing Mahomes a little bit more when you know that there are a bunch of badges going over here. Obviously, the icon does sometimes draft like a badge, even though I threw him some shade about him gobbling up elite QBs a lot of the time. But I think it's possible we get Mahomes back. I'm certainly not expecting it by any stretch, but it gets more likely here with this guy taking Mark Andrews. So you got to assume he's going to try to go to Lamar here at 28, setting up that Miami-Baltimore correlation, which looks great. I think it looks a little bit less great when you're reaching for it that much, but we will see here. I also think a guy like Sean, with the way he's drafting the hits of previous RB1s with Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry, would not shock me to see him take Mahomes here at 27. So definitely some risk out there. Thompson, 88 here, could theoretically take Mahomes, try to build out Cincinnati KC that way for week 17. So we're not out of the woods yet, but I do think these guys may be setting up some different stuff that could give us Mahomes back. Who knows? Jeremy's thinking about it. Of course, this guy cannot help himself with an elite QB. If there was an elite QB in your room and Jeremy's in every single one of my drafts, he is going to snatch it up every time. And oof, I worry about that for you, Jeremy. I do worry about that for you. Big fan of stacking QBs. Got Dak with Lamb, Deshaun with Amari, and Love with Watson the other day. You definitely need to be stacking your QBs for the most part, but with the elite QBs, everybody's doing that, so the advantage is a little bit less so than it would be for making sure you close off your Dak stack and all that. And it's still important to not reach like crazy for all the QBs. Like I do sometimes. I think it's important to complete your stacks for the most part. But for Kelce and Mahomes, it's like I just don't believe that taking Mahomes at 19 is necessarily the best play. I've done it sometimes, but in this particular room, I wanted to see if I could push him. But again, as you could hopefully tell with me talking about it, I know unfortunately the drafters in these rooms sometimes a little bit too well in what they're going to do. I don't know why this guy's dragging out the Lamar pick. Is he thinking he can push it to 45? Because that's not going to be the case. Okay, there we go. Had to take Lamar here. We're setting up Baltimore, Miami, so obviously by reaching for Mark Andrews, you got to take Lamar. It was Smith and Hurts or Mahomes and Higgins for me, whatever fell. Okay, Jeremy. Jeremy, again, loves an elite QB. What should we do here? So we have New Orleans, Kansas City. I do think we need to get ahead of the wide receivers a little bit here. Amari Cooper is still a guy that I believe in. I know he's always been talked down to by the industry. Might make sense to take a Jalen Hurts, but I don't love an unstacked Jalen Hurts. And taking Goddard late wouldn't make the most sense, or taking him later, rather, would make the most sense with this bet that we have on Travis Kelce. So I'll eschew the elite QBs here, and we'll go there. But I think that's really the main thing for me that might differentiate my portfolio naturally from a lot of people out there is I get the elite QBs. Like I have them, 4% to 6% for all of them. But I get them like by pushing them all. Like I don't take them for the most part where they're aligning in the second round. I'd rather try to get him in the third here for a reason like I guess this guy doesn't have Diggs, but he could have theoretically had Diggs, Adams, Josh Allen. That would have been a fantastic start for him. That's a start that I love. Had that one a little bit more with Diggs, Jalen Waddle, and Josh Allen. But still, like that's the kind of build you can get if you force the elite QBs down. And I think that's when you want to take those guys. And because of the fact that like you can push elite QBs down in enough rooms, I think that inherently, if you're taking an elite QB in the second round, I think you're going to cause yourself some problems because you're going to run into a lot of teams that just have that one extra guy in the second round. And that extra guy could literally be the one who breaks it for week 16, for week 15, and obviously for it all at the end of week 17. GM Spags. Shout out to everybody here coming over from Peach Streams. Shout out to everybody who's hanging out. And there's a lot of people out here competing for your stream hours on YouTube with best ball season. But I do appreciate you guys hanging out with me here. And I would say that a lot, but I do really mean it and want to make sure, promoting my appreciation for you is all I can do here on these streams. Got a Dig Smith Hurts. That's a fun one. That is a very fun one, actually. Dig Smith Hurts, I think, is unique in a way where you are then getting leverage upon teams like mine, where I have the extra guy plus Josh Allen. Obviously, you still want the correlation there, but you're getting it with Devontae Smith. So I think it's a smart way to build that. That's the kind of thing that I know Pat talks a lot about on Peach Stream, including a little bit this morning here. I was watching that on the Best Ball Breakfast, of course, on our pal Pete Over's channel. Help subscribe over there. For some reason, you're subscribed to Splash Play, not subscribed to Pete. Make sure to go subscribe to his channel. We'll help him out. But they were talking about the game theory of some of that stuff and getting unique combos. And like maybe you take a Pollard and a Mon-Ra instead of taking CD and a Mon-Ra that everybody gets, or CD with Gibbs a little bit later. Those are things that I think at this point, especially where we have 3 months of drafts, or basically 3 months of drafts to look at and go, I know how these rooms work. I know what I see every single time. I wouldn't go reaching like crazy for it. My Christian Watson example, when I have Justin Jefferson in the one hole, that being the one difference. But I think besides that, like just, don't reach for it. But if you can somehow get your configurations a little bit different, or don't reach like crazy for it. But definitely a good thing to do to get some of those unique pairings that you haven't got, especially if you're a max drafter, like a lot of people in the chat are. If you've seen anybody get a Brown Smith Hurts, I actually did get that on a stream that we did on the 4for4 channel. Pete and I both streamed a draft with John Daigle at one point, and I got the Hurts premium double, and was ecstatic. That was one of my favorite drafts. I think I've done 2 or 3 drafts that really stand out in my brain, and that's definitely one of them that I think I will look fondly upon if the rest of the lineup is going to hold up. All right, so we got Olave, Cooper, Kelce. Don't love the running backs in this range. DJ Moore already went for reasons unclear. Terry McLaurin's undervalued still. I've talked about this a lot. Talked about this since McLaurin was in the 50s. But he's a guy, apparently the rapport looking better with him so far. And I'm happy to give him DJ Moore and Justin Fields because he really reached the shit out of DJ Moore here. But Terry McLaurin looking better with Sam Howell, becoming more of a go-to guy according to the practice reports there for him. And that's what you want to see from McLaurin. Part of the reason McLaurin was so good down the stretch last year was Carson Wentz did feed him the ball. And then also we saw the other QBs there start to feed him the ball. Taylor Heineke in particular, I think really targeted him every single time he could. That's something that I think bodes well for McLaurin. If he just gets fed, he's going to make opportunities out of it. And he's one of those guys that I haven't talked about as much compared to like a Christian Watson or a George Pickens, but a guy who gets this rep as being just kind of a downfield threat. But analytically just looked great last year. Let me pull up his numbers real fast. 0.32 EPA per target. So we are talking Justin Jefferson territory. Doesn't mean that he's equal to Justin Jefferson, but it does mean that he's adding a similar amount of value when he's targeted, where he's getting targeted on the field. And also 20% receiving DVOA. So that's a pretty exciting number for a guy like McLaurin, whose volume should be pretty good at 7 targets per game last year, high amount of routes, 34 routes per game. And you got to think it's going to be more effective routes this year with Eric Bieniemy strategizing. And here's Jeremy doing this. This is a move that I just don't love. I'm not trying to be mean to Jeremy here because he took Mahomes for no reason now, but you got Burrow at not that big of a discount. I don't get it. I don't get the move. I don't think this team makes the most sense, and you're burning so much capital at QB. Jeremy can defend himself in the chat. I know he can handle it. That's why I'm critiquing him a little bit. But these are the starts that I just would never do unless it falls to you. Like the only time I've taken this one, I think was actually on a Pete stream where I had Mahomes. I was drafting, obviously, while watching Pete. And I let Burrow fall to me later on. I was like, I can't pass up Burrow in the 60s or whatever it was. If you're reaching for him a little bit and you also have Mahomes, I think that's a little bit overstacky for Kansas City and Cincinnati. But whatever. We'll see. So we're going to do with our pick here. Checking the chats as well as always. It's because you guys are basically the co-host here. I love to talk. I can fill the air as much as anybody out there, but I do appreciate having good conversation points with you guys. Took a few Kelce Mahomes teams around that spot and just never feels good enough by the end, so I stopped doing it. I think it's a fair way to look at it. You are bleeding out a lot of the value in the second round of receiver. Well, these are all the young guys too. Like guys, Calvin Ridley not young, but theoretically should have a little bit less miles on his body. I think it's doing the thing where the pick clock's a little slow. All right, we're good. All right, so we've got Olave, Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin, Travis Kelce. None of these guys on the board make the most sense here. This has been a tough run with the guys falling back to us. I am Yeah, I'm not going to reach for Mike Evans. I'll tell you what. I'm going to keep getting more JSN. I'm over the field on JSN at this point, but he is still one of the bets that I like the most. I know still some generalized concern for him not being out on the field for every single formation. Obviously going to lose some snaps theoretically out of the slot. It's Tyler Lockett, but still the talent there is so huge. Again, you go back to the numbers from 2021 when he was at Ohio State. Obviously had a full year of run there. Just a world beater in terms of his EPA per target out of the slot overall. A 0.86 EPA per target, which is just an outlandish number. Jalen Hyatt as a comparison point, a guy who was targeted very heavily downfield, who certainly had a lot more scheme to what he was getting in terms of his targets. Jalen Hyatt only had 0.76 EPA per target. So when you consider the fact that like JSN is earning his ability or his estimated points added on real routes, like real routes just getting open, and Hyatt's kind of getting schemed downfield, I think that sort of puts in context a little bit, a JSN, at least relative to any of these analytics and me rambling about them. Expect my co-host payment in the mail soon. Yes, so you can get all the earnings here from Splash Play, all the ones and ones of dollars that come flowing in. This is a passion project here. If you're a Splash Play chat co-host, it's solely out of passion, just like it is for me here, showing up, giving out takes, getting ready to be wrong about it. Love Kenneth Skywalker around here. I certainly get that. I think there's a little bit more love for guys like Kenneth Walker and Dameon Pierce. Not sure they're in the exact same situations with a new offense for Pierce that really could bring a lot of good parts of that San Francisco offense over to Houston. If they're anything, competent in terms of what they're doing. So that's something that I think bodes a little better for Pierce than Walker. The part with Walker that worries me, and the groin thing isn't great, having that reoccur, soft tissue injuries yet again after they kind of inhibited him last year. But it's more that Zach Charbonnet is just so good. I think that's the part that I'm very heavy on Charbonnet, over 20% Charbonnet and BBM4. Feel pretty good about that number on Zach Charbonnet. But I get why you'd want Walker. And because I'm so heavy on Charbonnet, I probably should naturally have a little bit more Walker, but I don't. So just more of a Charbonnet believer by a pretty wide margin. All right, let's see. Okay, Antonio, very proud of this team from last night at 108. Cup, Adams, Andrews, Lamar was pretty pumped. Anytime you can get Lamar falling a little bit in drafts, it's going to feel pretty good. Definitely Lamar. I think I did it on DraftKings. I was actually trying to get some DraftKings drafts out. And if you haven't seen the last few weeks of me drafting on DraftKings and getting my face absolutely tilted off, definitely going to be something to come back tomorrow because I'm stepping up to the DraftKings plate once again. But I built some sick teams off stream today where I got Lamar at one point with Mark Andrews without reaching for either guy. Lamar fell to late 40s and Andrews fell to mid 30s. So that worked out pretty well. But something to keep in mind if you are one of those people who, like me, reaches for Andrews and Lamar sometimes. All right, we're on the clock here. A lot of running backs left. Nobody's like a value I'm dying to get. I think it's time to have some fun, or at least potentially have some fun. Michael Pittman, another share. Why not? George Pickens going early kind of threw off the feng shui here. Would have loved to have gotten Pickens at the normal 67 spot that he's still available, pairing him for a week 17 correlation with JSN. We don't get that here. So instead, we will get the week 1 starter for the Indianapolis Colts, Anthony Richardson, perhaps. Perhaps. I don't know. If not, I'm happy to get another Pittman share. Never going to argue a Pittman share. Just entered a slow weekly winners to draft Arizona Washington stacks for the bye week 14 EV. God help me. I got to say, I appreciate everybody grinding weekly winners. I know our guy Hayden Winks is doing a great job trying to spread the good word of it and get people to help fill this tournament a little bit more. An aggressive concept, a new concept, and all that. So definitely a good place to go because I think there's a shot that weekly winners might overlay. That said, the metagame of weekly winners, I just find it exhausting. Exhausting to think about. Like, I don't want to build teams just for week 1. I don't want to build teams for week 2. If I'm going to do that, I personally would rather just go play DraftKings for the week. But honestly, with this point, if it does overlay and you are getting that prize pool every single week, you probably are going to benefit by putting some entries in. So they might rope me into that once I guess, if we get run out of BBM entries, maybe we'll do some weekly winners. But God damn it. Drafting one team with each full stack of just the bye weeks for more bullets on each week. I hate myself. I think that's what I would feel if I were trying to do that for weekly winners. But that's the strategy for it. If you're going to do that tournament, what Consigliere is outlining there, definitely one of the smarter things you can do. And of course, you can see that badge on Consigliere's avatar. If you want to join the Splash Play channel here, become a member of the Splash Play family and have me do a vaguely embarrassing Italian accent for you to welcome you to the Splash Play family. Please hit that join button down below, $4.99 a month. And you get the badge, you get some emojis, and you get access to my brain reviewing your teams as many as we want at this point, probably, but 10 a month is what we have in the legalese here. So I don't have to deal with people spamming me with them like Mathology did uh, to make me suffer. Who should I target in PPR at pick 6? It really depends on who's going to be available. For PPR, though, if Cup's available, would happily take him. I'd have no issue taking Diggs at 6. I would be more inclined for PPR, especially to go to one of the receivers in that range, and then try to get Bijan maybe in the second round. But I presume he's asking for season-long leagues, so I would try to perhaps get Diggs. If you can't get Diggs, then I would take Bijan there. I have the most confidence in Bijan out of the running backs that might be available in that range. All right, let's see what we can do here. We're going full 0 RB for the most part, 0051. Stupid Trevor Lawrence just doesn't make sense for this team, so I'm not going to take him. Don't have any correlation for that. Quentin Johnston, come on down. Maybe a little too married to the extreme 0 RB in this one. Perhaps I could have taken a running back value. Dameon Pierce actually does look kind of good there, but what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Not worried about Cup at all. Yeah, it's season long, by the way. So yeah, for Cup, I wouldn't worry at this point. Certainly this particular injury that he has is not one that it should be holding him out very long. The hope has always been that he'd be back in practice sooner than it might seem for that one. Soft tissue injuries are never great for a guy like that, and he's getting older. Like if you want a nickel and dime it, you can. But at this point, with where you're picking, I think you probably just want to get a guy for PPR who could still be a monster. And Cooper Kupp can be a monster, whether it's Stafford out there, whether it's going to be Stetson Bennett out there as the backup. I think both those guys can feed Cooper Kupp adequately as long as the Rams are in contention. And I find it hard to believe. I guess I don't find it hard to believe. I think the Rams are most likely like an 8-9-ish team. And if that's the case, they're probably still playing until the end of the season. And that means Cooper Kupp is going to be out there getting targets and getting fed well. So I have no issue doing that. Dameon Pierce goes at 80. That is a nice steal. As I've talked about, just some vague concerns with Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary. Singletary, started that game in the preseason with Pierce being held out. Could have been because of Pierce not wanting to hurt him going into the season. Could also be because Pierce is a little bit banged up. So I think that's something with Pierce where there's a little bit of fluidity with what to expect from him. That said, his best case outcome for Dameon Pierce and why I think I need to start drafting him a little bit more, especially in rooms like this where he falls. Dameon Pierce could be San Francisco Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, we're talking like the Dollar Tree store version of that. But like with that offense, with what they're doing, and I believe so much in any disciple of a Shanahan, or in particular of Kyle Shanahan, that's what they're running with now. Is Bobby Slowick as their offensive coordinator who ran the pass game last year for the Niners. That's the kind of guy coming in that I think can really get some results right away. But if that's the case, like Dameon Pierce could be fed more efficiently than he was last year. The issue is if we just look at the metrics, like Dameon Pierce was really inefficient last year, are really good at avoiding tackles, but just didn't turn that into good plays in any way that you would feel any sort of comfort with. All right, so we got our RBs. I mean, our RBs have got to hit heavy now. We do have all of our wide receivers out of the way, though, so that feels okay for now. Definitely a nice pocket here for running backs. One I see I would love to get, which you can guess if you're playing along at home. But I think there's one that correlates with our team right now that would be pretty good at this range. We'll see what Hawkberg does. We'll see what Ali. That's a fun name. See what Ali does. Well, let's see your Spags. I'm late, but I'm here to tell the fine sheep to like and sub or else. Thank you. That's all I can ask, because if we can browbeat everybody to being part of Splash Play on the march to 3,000 subs, of course, how could I do it without the flashing neon GIF? Please subscribe down below. All right, so Rachaad White, a guy that I know has gotten some FUD recently, didn't do much or didn't play in that preseason game just because I think he was being held out because he's basically the guy that they're going to force feed touches to this year as the Bucs tank their way out. But there is some stuff too, as we talked about earlier, like the Bucs might be a really bad team. Apparently, though, based on some of the longitudinal data, running backs tend to survive a bad team better than the receivers do. I'm not sure what the exact math on that would be. I would guess because passing is more analytically friendly, that as a result, if a team's not good, then they're probably not passing at a successful rate. But I think that's something with a guy like Rachaad White, where I would have pretty good faith in him. And the fact that he's getting cheaper, like you're now paying this steep price, like Pybus Wrinkle here is taking James Cook and Khalil Herbert. And these guys were so much cheaper a week ago, let alone, a month ago. A guy like Rachaad White has gotten so much cheaper relative to those two guys. They're going in different directions, and I'd rather get the guy that's now coming down in price tag because I've got enough Cook and I've probably got enough Khalil Herbert. How disappointing to tune in late and see Spags, but not in an AR jersey. Well, we got a shot. We got a shot here. Maybe a couple. We'll see what these last. I'm surprised the Icon didn't take Anthony Richardson too to add to his harem of QBs. The Icon, I think, drafts QBs like he's a sultan in the old East. And he's just going. He's like, I need to add some more. Ooh, Mahomes, Joe Burrow, come on in. You're beautiful ladies. And I'm just glad he didn't want to add AR to that fray. All right, let's see. A few more picks here. Our beloved boy here, Zach Charbonnet. Rashad Penny goes. Is Penny on the way up? Going at 100. I feel like he hasn't gone to 100 in a draft I've been in a little bit of a minute. I think he should be on the way up. Much more. I mean, I'm happy to take any Philly running back absolutely at their ADPs. I think they all have a shot to be there, and honestly probably have a shot to get there collectively. Like all these guys could have multiple spike weeks. But Penny to me is the guy that just looks so good with the numbers last year and the last few years, really. All right, so we are going to take AR here. I just don't see why we wouldn't. We got Pittman. We need a QB. So it is jersey time, guys. And as our friend Historical Anomalies has said on the stream before, I have to earn it every draft. I'm going to wear the AR jersey. I got to earn it. So let's go, boys. I feel like I'm a player getting a sticker on his helmet. Jersey time. Historical Anomalies. Way too on. All right, let's do it. Let's add some layers here. The studio's hot as balls down in the basement, not getting proper ventilation from the air conditioning. But Lord knows I'm going to put on this goddamn jersey even if I have to sweat my face off. A Spags classic. There we go. Do you have Scottish ancestry? So you know I'd be licking my sheep chops. Sheep chops. Oh, boy. Watch out, lamb chop. I'll just take AR here. Don't see why not. Statement that never ages. It's true. And people, too, have come into the chat sometimes where the comments have been like, oh, or especially on the old drafts where, sometimes I took AR and I think the worst was taking them in the 70s for a brief stretch, mostly for the bit because I just wanted to get my shares before anybody else could. But people are like, oh, don't you worry about the closing line value and all of that. It's like, no, because you know why? And those teams that they are, I have Roshan Johnson in the 170s. I have Devin A. Chain in the 130s. I have Kendre Miller, unfortunately, in the 130s. But there's enough things where you do throughout these drafts where, like, I just wouldn't select the closing line value too much, just because you usually build enough things around that to make each individual draft unique. And they all represent different pockets of time, too, if you have been drafting as regularly as we have here on Splash Play, as well as in general. A lot of people drafting since May. So you get different looks. So I'm happy to dollar cost Anthony Richardson down. And I think at this point, too, I would like to get to 25% AR. 25 to 30. And I am just shy of 22, I believe, right now. So got to jam them a little bit here in the home stretch. See what we do with our next pick, though. So, ooh, perfect. Boy, this is a beautiful room for me. Zach Charbonnet falling back here. Why? I don't know. But I'm happy to gobble up 9-pick discount on Charbonnet, 7 picks on Rachaad White. This is why, guys. You know why I'm a 0RB obsessive. Obviously, I had to reach a little bit for some of these receivers, Pittman in particular, but the rest of them, for the most part, kind of fell in line with ADP. But then you do get this nice pocket of running backs where White falls back to me, Charbonnet falls back to me. These are guys that I have some amount of faith in, probably a little more faith in Charbonnet than Rachaad White, but I'm definitely happy to take Rachaad White at the discount. Be nice in my home league with his QB 20 ranking for AR. Wow. It's funny. I was actually reading, there's an Athletic article that I got a notification for, and it's like all the Athletic fantasy people, I guess, talking about their favorite plays and this outcome and all that. And boy, that article is just all of them filleting Anthony Richardson. And even if they're not filleting him, they're all like kind of couching it where it's like, oh, well, he might be inaccurate at passing, but his floor and ceiling potential are tantalizing. And it's very funny to see like everybody starting to get on the same page here with AR. I know there's still going to be some haters out there, and there's still going to be some people who are like, I saw him play in the SEC. That boy can't throw the ball at all. And they all talk exactly like that. But I think that when we see him out in the field, man, with good coaching, with some nice receivers out there who won't drop every pass like Alec Pierce did in that first preseason game, things are going to be absolutely cooking for AR. But we'll see. I saw that Nick Ercolano, our old pal, who has, of course, the BDGE channel here on YouTube, does a great job of that content. He had put out a tweet like, does anybody want to take a $1,000 straight up bet that Deshaun Watson outscores Anthony Richardson? He wanted the Watson side. And like, I certainly get that. Like season long, sure, I would take Watson. I think the Browns are going to be good. Watson another year removed from all this bullshit that he's put himself through and bad actions, and I shouldn't make it sound like he's a victim. Point being, though, like they're going to be good. That said, if we're going to take just one game ceilings, especially for week 17 in a dome against a shitty team in the Raiders, or what should be a mostly shitty team, I will take that AR ceiling over Watson for one game. Like if we're rolling into one game, we're doing the poker roll out of our cards. I think you want to have the guy who's got the biggest ceiling, and he's that guy. All right, so we've got Seattle, no Carolina. Bigsby's an okay value here. I don't know that I need to add more to my Jaylen Warren bags yet. If he were to fall back, that's great. I don't think he will. But he's basically the only bring back left for Seattle. All right, let's get Jaylen Warren. the mental gymnastics to take a guy that is one of my highest exposed players. But Warren starting to come up in ADP again. I've gotten him so cheap all draft season that I can take him wherever, and I don't think it's going to really affect my overall portfolio. But just love getting Charbonnet and Warren. If these two guys, if you guys follow the season, and I'm sure we'll be doing best ball check-ins here on Splash Play. The FBI has lifted all sorts of rules about not talking about best ball in season. If you see these two cooking down the home stretch, and I have any teams alive in Best Ball Mania 4, know that your boy Spags is eating. Know that we are doing well. That's right. Keep clicking Warren. I think James is saying that antagonizingly, but I would say that, yes, I will absolutely keep drafting the better running back out of the two. Like I think the one thing that sometimes people miss with this stuff, and I've talked about it on the stream a little bit, what's going to happen to Matt Canada if he feeds Najee Harris the ball 25 times a game? Like, what's going to happen to him? What's going to happen? The unemployment line. What's going to happen? He gets demoted to another position because he's not going to get an OC job for a little bit. What happens if he gives the ball to Jaylen Warren after seeing Jaylen Warren look better in practice every single day than Najee Harris? Maybe he saves his job. Maybe this is the thing that helps him out. Does it mean that Jaylen Warren's going to get 60% of the workload? No. Does it mean that Jaylen Warren's very live to get 50%, 40%? Yes. And is that exactly what you want in best ball, especially in a 0 RB build like this? Absolutely. So that's why Jaylen Warren. That's the why of Jaylen Warren. Historical anomalies bringing up the point that if you're a game film guy and you're not sold on a guy like Zach Charbonnet, just watch his plays from last preseason. Like watch what he did on the pass game routes. Watch what he did when he was hitting dudes. Man, just the kind of running back. Like AR, I love the way that Zach Charbonnet runs. Like that's preaching to me. That's like a man who plays like that is how I wish I could play if I had any sort of athletic ability to that level. Just you want to lay the boom on dudes. And that's Zach Charbonnet coming off a shoulder injury, if nothing else. They actually said tantalizing. I need to get away from that. Do we not like the word tantalizing? I think it's a good word fantasy-wise. I love the word tantalizing. Tantalize me, baby. Matt Canada, our basic bitch offensive coordinator. I mean, Mr. Pittsburgh knows pretty well that this is a do or die year for Matt Canada. And you get a lot of loyalty in Pittsburgh. They certainly are willing to give guys a little more rope, I think, than other places. But this is the year where he's got to put something. He's got to put something out there. Got to put a viable product, or else things are going to get much worse. All right, we are on the clock here. This is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. We got Washington. Elijah Mitchell falls back. Why not? Did Jerick McKinnon die? Why is Jerick McKinnon not being drafted at all? Like I know Pete doesn't draft him. I know there's a lot of sharp people out there who think he's old and washed or whatever, but he's going this far after ADP. And if I'd gotten Patrick Mahomes, I would have gobbled that up, but I didn't. Silky Johnson here, by the way. You don't need this as a 3 QB build. Love a good 3 QB build. If you're taking Dak, like Dak tier and Daniel Jones, this is a Dak Daniel Jones or a Dak Goff. You don't need 3. Just pointing stuff out here, trying to point out stuff on the board I see a little bit more because I've realized I get lost in the sauce lot, talking to the chat, talking about things that I want to get off my chest. But sometimes here, people do interesting things on the board. So I'm going to try to point it out. And if you're one of the people watching here and I somehow insult you by saying you did something wrong, like our pal Jeremy here in the one hole, just take it at face value. Try titillating. Oh, the people want titillating. Titillating and tantalizing. You need like a team name player. I feel like, actually, Terry McLaurin, people have pushed the F1 thing a lot with him. How about titillating and tantalizing Terry McLaurin? That would be his name if you were a 1950s pro wrestler. And down to the ring, here comes titillating and tantalizing Tara McLaurin. It's an esoteric reference, but there's somebody out there that'll enjoy it. Matt Canada has mentioned multiple times that this offseason, the offensive calls come from the head coach and above. I mean, that's a little bit of shunting blame, I think, by him. The one thing I will say from this offense, and it is a thing that we saw in that one preseason game, we'll see what they continue to do, but it's also been a thing that's been signaled a lot in the training camp articles about them, is that they're basically running the same plays they did last year. The difference is now that they're opening it up for Kenny Pickett to, like, if this is normally a play where they would say, hey, try to hit the check down, they're instead trying to say, hey, force it downfield to Pickens, force it downfield to Freiermuth, or I guess if Deontay can somehow extend his route tree a little bit further down. That's the kind of thing that I think does bode well for Pittsburgh, is that they recognize that they've done some things right, but they also recognize that they could do things better if they actually use the run to set up the pass, or vice versa, even. A crazy thing, I know, in 2023. All right, let's see what we can do here. We need another QB. Not totally dried up there. Getting a little bit more dried up with that guy reaching for Derek Carr. Oh, man, this is tough. 1461. I feel like I just need more talent at running back. Let's get a share of Kenneth Gainwell. He's come up in ADP, but we didn't get Rashad Penny. We didn't get DeAndre Swift, who I take sometimes, but Penny definitely more of a play for me. But Gainwell, the reports of him being the feature back, I think a little bit overblown. I just don't think we know officially what's going to happen here with Philly. Still think that Kenneth Gainwell gets used a lot more than he did last year. But I think that the base down back is still Rashad Penny, and then DeAndre Swift is kind of the similar usage level to Kenneth Gainwell. But we'll see. I think it's anybody's guess right now. And just draft, like for me, I'm just drafting all the guys still, if I can get them around ADP or a little bit after. Gainwell over Vaughn, I would say yes by a while. The Deuce Vaughn thing, man, I know I've stumped against it here. We have one of the guys in chat, Chunk the Deuce, I believe is his name, who is a big Deuce Vaughn guy and wants me to like Deuce. He was just not that good in college, and I don't think that one preseason game should change the fact that he would be the smallest running back to do anything. I think he can absolutely be useful as like a third down pass game back. But do you want to give him those reps over Tony Pollard? Do you even want to give him those reps over Malik Davis? I'm not sure about that. I think the Deuce steam, the Deuce steam. I think the steam coming off of that Deuce is a little too much for me. I don't think that's the best play for everybody, personally. I will likely continue to have very little Deuce Vaughn. If I do get him, I'll take him on DraftKings, I think, in like the 19th round if I can get him. But he's coming up everywhere, so I might not get a lot of Deuce Vaughn. There you go, James. You're back in my good graces. Deuce Vaughn is a tiny, minuscule little person. He is. He is a little person. Debut of a 50s wrestling announcer voice. That is a debut. That is, in fact, a new voice I've not done before. I do think I'd be a pretty good wrestling announcer, though. Found out before the show that my wife got us got me WrestleMania tickets for my birthday. So we'll be going to that on the Saturday night. And then she didn't realize the Sunday night's like when all the good shit goes down for WWE. But I will be in attendance at WrestleMania next year after a few years off. Used to go every year. Used to travel with my buddies and go see it. But not happening this year. Or not, that part's not happening. I'll be going, but going locally here in Philly. All right, let's see. We got a pick here coming up. Could use one more running back, I think. Still need a QB as well. Boy, Zeke coming up, huh? I don't want to keep packing more Kendre Miller bags, but I do think this is a spot to take Kendre Miller as our sixth running back. He's healthy enough, like he'll be ready to go. I just think the injury missteps are making it a lot harder for him to get that early role and maybe making it harder for him to win the role early on in the way that I would like to see. But I still will take Kendre here. Think he still is a good part of his URB portfolio, especially one like this where we have some early season roles. We have some rookies. Like I think it's a good mix to take Kendre. And then also, again, we do have the bet on New Orleans, even though we didn't get Derek Carr. So that works. Media tickets is a hell of a gift. Yeah, it was apparently very expensive, but I have to spend a lot on her, so I guess so it evens out. Top 5 wrestlers. Still pretty big on Cody. Would have liked to have seen the AEW elite guys come over to WWE. I think that would have been fun. But yeah, probably Cody's my favorite. And Roman Reigns doing such great character work. Hard to argue that. But if we're going to go really nerdy, though, the guy who really got me into New Japan wrestling was Nakamura. And that was one of the most expensive tickets I've ever bought myself. When he debuted in America, or, for NXT in America, paid $1,000 to sit front row to see Nakamura. And that was a lot of fun. Seeing Nakamura live. Love that guy. Now they've kind of ruined the character a little bit, but that guy was a beast and the most charismatic guy in the world. Deuce is a special teams player. Hopefully squeezed onto the field a bit more because he's super fun to watch. I think he's fun to watch. The thing that jumped out, and I've talked about this on stream, so I apologize. I know we're getting new people in every day, and I'm very happy for that, but I apologize to people who watch every day and sometimes hear me repeat points because I do hate repeating points. The thing that jumps out with Deuce that scares me the most off them and why I don't want a lot, 15% avoided tackle rate for him last year, and that's getting 25 carries a game, or 25 carries plus targets a game. He didn't miss a lot of tackles. Like, he got hit a lot. And for a guy that's small, that's got the lowest avoided tackle rate of all the rookies, like, that could bode really poorly for him. Like, he can get absolutely tuned up in a way that I think is not viable for him to get 10 touches in a game. The one thing he added value in was in the pass game where he ran 17 routes per game, had a .078 EPA per target, which is not great either, but it's like, okay. So Deuce, I think, has those things going for him, but that just all screams like low usage guy. And then maybe I'll have a shot at being more efficient, but like, he can't. I mean, he handled 25 intended touches or overall last year for Kansas State, so I get it. But like, he can't do that in the NFL. He can't get away with that. But we'll see. Top 5 of all time. CM Punk was one of my guys. I worked at WWE. I haven't talked about it on Splash Play in a while, but that was my first job out of college. And CM Punk, that was when he was first coming into WWE, and I got to do some of his media stuff because I was working in the PR department. So I booked him an appearance with Spin Magazine, and on Ghost Hunters. I did the Ghost Hunters Halloween special there live for 8 hours in the Stanley Hotel, which The Shining is based on, with CM Punk and his then girlfriend Maria. So I like that guy a lot, but he seems like he's lost his way a little bit based on the reports from old AEW. All right, we're gonna wait on how this is getting a little dicey though. These QBs are absolutely flying off the board. You know what? I don't think it's worth waiting on Howell just because this room feels like it's got some maniac drafters. So we're going to take Sam Howell here. We do have the bet on McLaurin. I think if McLaurin has an outlier game, he's likely to take Sam Howell with him, at least as long as Sam Howell starts. Obviously, if the Commanders are good and Sam Howell was bad, they'll probably go to Jacoby Brissett. But I think we have to play the most likely outcome right now, and that is still Sam Howell being the starter and hopefully being good enough to prop up both McLaurin and the team. Shout out to everybody here who's got to head out. Appreciate everybody who stays, but I get people coming in and out here. We got 5 days a week of drafts on Splash Play, so have no fear. Come spend time with me whenever you please here. I'll be here for you doing drafts, at least for the next 22 days, and then we'll have the season and even more content coming up here on Splash Play, so come hang out. James digging deep here. Kota Ibushi, Okada, Tanahashi, Will Ospreay. Definitely a lot of talented guys in that mix there. Hard to ever watch a Will Ospreay match and feel bad about it. I don't want to alienate everybody by talking too much wrestling, but I do love wrestling. I know our guy, Jordan Cooper, who does a good job, obviously, with the DFS content. I know he's doing some wrestling podcasts too. In my dream world, I would have Splash Play to cover all my football stuff. I would have a basketball podcast where I get to do basketball in season as well. And I would do wrestling content. Those would be the 3 things that I'm passionate about and would talk about. So maybe one day, dare to dream. Late to the party. Glad to see Spags got his man AR. It's funny because now our regulars here on Splash Play know if they see me in the jersey, that must mean that I got AR along the way. But yes, the rare AR Sam Howell team, which if you like risk at your QB position, this is probably not the one for you, but boy, I love it. I love it. If it makes you feel uncomfortable and you built it structurally sound, that's the kind of team I can get behind. All right, we got a 2-6-6-1. Definitely could use a few more receivers here down the home stretch. But nothing we're like urgent about, I don't think. Honestly, we built such aggressive 0 RB. We probably don't even need that. Let's take another New Orleans correlation. Again, we got sniped on Derek Carr. Not my favorite, but Juwan Johnson's floating around here. A little bit of a steal at ADP, but not a lot. Juwan Johnson falls in a lot of draft rooms, so that is what it is. Hang on here, by the way. If you're thinking about heading out, we'll hit one more draft and BBM 4 coming up right after this one. So once I make my last pick, I'll start up another draft. You guys will know. So you want to play along with me and Underdog, feel free to do it. And of course, if you do want to play along, Use that promo code SPLASH. You could double your deposit up to $100 on Underdog. If you're new to best ball, happy to give you some tips here. The 3 tips I would always say to anybody who's new to best ball is don't reach for ADP stuff. Try to get guys to fall to you. Try to take guys around ADP. Obviously, you can reach here and there, but if you do it across an entire lineup, you're diminishing the value of what the team that you built because somebody else could have the same team, but at cheaper with a few better players tacked on. So that's number 1. Number 2, at least try to double stack your QBs. So that could be with another running back. That could be with receivers, obviously, with tight ends, but at least a double stack, maybe a triple stack. And then week 17 correlation, that's number 3. Always try to correlate for week 17. People think it's overvalued. People think it's overrated. They are incorrect because not enough people do it. And there's enough data already from BBM4 to show that people are not correlating enough. So just keep that stuff in mind, and hopefully you'll be okay if you use that promo code SPLASH. I want to get that part down because I always want to try to give like, here's at least the core things I'm doing every time out. It doesn't have to be 0 RB. Obviously, I love a 0 RB team, but I think if I heard a guy who came into chat yesterday was like, what's best ball? I'm like, if I don't know where to fucking begin here. But those 3 things I think cover it well. And read the Best Ball Manifesto by Mike Leone if you really want to get better at it. Osprey Omega at Forbidden Door was crazy good. They've had a couple of really good matches so far. I'm curious to see the rubber match in that one. But yeah, those guys are very talented. Kenny Omega too. A little bit of a weirdo, I think, in terms of his persona, but I do like him in terms of what he puts out wrestling-wise. Also, this is a stupid team by Thompson88 here. Took Tua, which didn't correlate with anything, so that's kind of dumb. And then took 3 more QBs here that I believe also do not correlate with anything here. So if you want to see how you submarine a team that got Jamar Chase and Devonta Smith, that's one way to do it, I think. Nice value, right? Not even a nice value in Jonathan Taylor. He goes lower. This is a bad team in the 2-hole, in my estimation. All teams are valid. All right, so we don't need a running back. We really don't need another receiver. But I think we can use a 3rd QB. Like, I'm happy with AR. I think we can roll with this if we wanted, but I think we have the luxury of it. So let's get Bryce Young in here. And I think we can tack on one more correlation here, either at tight end or at receiver. But I think that'll work out pretty well. Yeah, stay tuned, folks. You might take Mahomes, Allen, Hurts the next draft. There we go. The good news, Elite Deet here. Of course, again, if you missed it earlier in the show, he was the guy yesterday that I was perhaps sassing a little bit too hard in the stream. Named Deet Feet is the Underdog name. And the good news is that people do that here and did it without making a mistake. So that's something here. You see in some drafts, people love elite QBs, and sometimes people love non-elite QBs, as you can see highlighted on the screen. Gee whiz. Take a sip of water here. Got to hydrate for this next round. I'm happy with these teams I'm putting up on stream lately, though. I feel like I've hit a nice little run here down the home stretch. The ADP pockets, I think, are aligning pretty well for guys that I like too. Able to dollar cost some guys down a little bit. Feeling pretty good about these rooms lately. So I'm excited to get a second draft here. And then tomorrow, we'll blow it all up by going on DraftKings. But that'll be the schedule next 2 days, by the way. Tomorrow, DraftKings. Friday, Spags Stacks will be back. Of course, we'll spin the randomizer wheel, which will tell me which of the 7 remaining teams I have to draft. If you've been following Spags Stacks since June, we have drafted 25 teams. We've got 7 more to go, so it'll be pretty exciting to get that going. Short Gamer takes Trey Palmer. All right. You must have a New Orleans guy somewhere, right? Nah, he just took Trey Palmer uncorrelated. Okay. Trey Palmer wasn't a guy I was thinking about, but I guess would have made sense for this build too, given the New Orleans parts that we have. But yeah, in hindsight, I would have liked Trey Palmer in this build. Oh, well. All right, so Hayden Hurst, I'm thinking about as a 3rd tight end. Again, with the idea being, can we get a spike week from somebody else to advance Travis Kelce if we need it? Hurst goes. Terrace Marshall still looming around. I'm not worried about the injury to Terrace Marshall. Not worried about Jonathan Mingo either. He's going to be out there, but they're just different players. Marshall eats if DJ Chark is unavailable or if they just rotate him in because he's better than DJ Chark. So that's why I'm going to take Terrace Marshall here for my final correlation. here with Bryce Young. So the final team at QB, and I did not read this team enough as we went, so my apologies. Anthony Richardson, Sam Howell, Bryce Young at QB. We got Rashad White, Zach Charbonnet, Jalen Warren, Elijah Mitchell, Kenneth Gainwell, and Kendra Miller. Kind of classic zero RB room here. At receiver, Chris Olave, Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin, JSN, Michael Pittman, Quentin Johnson, and Terrace Marshall. Feels like a little bit of a thinner zero RB build because we did get Travis Kelce, of course, at tight end, and then Juwan Johnson. So that is the team. Let's cue it up, boys. I'll give you guys a moment here to catch up with me. Of course, use that promo code SPLASH, double your deposit up to $100 on Underdog. Play along with me here. We got a 68% fill rate, not quite a nice 69%. We're going to get there. We're entering now. $25 to win $3 million, boys. Here we go. Gage out for the season. Emotional as he was carted off. Well, there you go. That's the kind of injury you want to watch out for, I guess. We got a bunch of spots left here if you want to get in with me. 5 spots left, so hop in. Can't see it because of my dumb face. There, you can see it now. Look at all those spots. Look at those spots tempting you. Hey, you see one of those spots over there? Hey, you boys in YouTube, you want to buy one of these little spots we got in Ball Mania 4? Just get a taste. Just get a taste of a spot in Ball Mania 4. Hey, you want to feel good? Hey, baby, you want to feel good? Getting this Ball Mania 4 draft. All right, we're good now. You can see it's filled. So I can move my face back. All right. The icon again in the 101. Great. Fucking great. The icon in the 101. Short gamer in the 4 spot. Anybody else in chat, if you were in here, let me know. And I'm glad to shout you out as well. Which one's a Matt? Oh, Matt Murphy, LOL. I could have probably done that mental gymnastics for myself. Oh, shit. Lucky 7 is right. I do have to take the jersey off again. Oh, boy. All right, jersey back off. Can't see from the hat right now. Okay. Thank you for the reminder. And there we go. Now you can see my 2015 fantasy football champion shirt that I got to troll my friend of many, many years since high school for beating him in the finals. This is my fantasy bona fides. Oh, yeah. Pat Kerrane, he won $2 million. Chasing Kerrane. How about chasing the Cali Cartel in the 2015 Il Besto League? You'll never catch that because that league's defunct now because people get to their 30s and don't want to keep playing fantasy football forever, at least not collectively amidst a group of people sometimes. Jeremy had to do two. His last spot filled in the other. There we go. Here's Elite Deets, a special moment, sweet, sweet redemption. Wait, where's Deet Feet? You're not in my room, are you? Did you get a different room? Deet Feet must be in a different room unless I'm missing something here. All right, we're on the clock. Good news, we have an RB Piggy in the room. So the guy earlier was asking about Cooper Kupp. Let's test it out. Let's kick the wheels on some Cooper Kupp. I am over the field on Jefferson. I am over the field on Tyreek. I cannot get a 102 for the life of me, so I'm under the field on Jamar Chase, but I am slightly under on Cooper Kupp, so I am going to take him here and have no problem with that. I also will, of course, review my exposures on Friday on Spags Stacks. So you guys can see where I'm floating at right now, but Cooper Kupp heading into last draft, 7.3% Cooper Kupp, so I'm almost there. Jamar Chase, though. 4% Jamar Chase. I'm also just with the field on Devontae Smith and T. Higgins. I'm at 8% of those guys. And I don't love that because I love both those players, especially as leverage against the A.J. Brown and Jamar Chase going ahead of them in the first round. But yeah, those guys don't align for me a lot in the pockets I'm going. So that's been a little bit tough for me. I didn't get in. Tomorrow's your day. There we go. Well, tomorrow will be on DraftKings, but keep trying, Deet Feed. I appreciate you, bud. I'm glad you are a friend now. That's the thing here on Splash Play. I think sometimes I am probably too mean to people in the draft rooms because this is a real experience. Like I'm drafting like a real human being. If somebody fucks you over in a real draft, I think your tendency here, if you're streaming, you want to keep it cool. In reality, though, if you're doing that at home, you're like, you motherfucker, what are you doing? So I think we're trying to keep it honest here, but hope everybody gets that it's always in the spirit of good fun, right? But Deet Feet gets it, and I appreciate that. It's my top 3 players percentage Spags. Well, I'll tease it here for Friday, but in BBM right now, it's still Christian Watson, still Jalen Warren, and still Kendra Miller. Kendra Miller is up above 25% for me in BBM, which Would like to get that closer to 20, I think. I'm probably not going to do it by drafting him more, but I still believe in the guy. It's just, gosh, really, the path gets tougher if you keep hurting the same knee. Not going to be a guy who sweats injuries and all that. But fuck, man, if you keep hurting the same knee, that's a problem. Spags always keeps it real. Dustin knows. Dustin's one of the OGs, and I appreciate it here. Shout out to the chat as always. Shout out to the chat. Keeping it fun for me. I always appreciate that. Of course, if you're a shy chatter as well, never be afraid to pop in here. As you saw, like, I'm happy to answer season-long questions if you really want to. But whatever makes you guys happy, always down to have new names here. New names, new friends, right? It's all it's about. It's like people talk about parasocial relationships with like people watching content or whatever, like their favorite musicians, like the BTS Korean pop people are probably the best example of it. I feel like for me, it's the other way where it's like, oh, these guys are all my friends in chat. Like, you guys are all pals. Love it. Love having you around. Damn Jobs. At least I caught the second draft. Hey, I appreciate it, man. People are got to cycle in and out. I get it. It's a lot of things to do in your life. You know, I stream during the daytime. Some point, I think this, before this offseason ends and we get into the real season, I do want to do a nighttime draft. I saw Liam did one last night. Of course, the BBM2 winner, who does a great YouTube channel as well. Feel free to check him out. Just not right now. But in general, but yeah, he did a stream last night and was like crushing it with live views. It's like, maybe I should be streaming at night sometimes. Am I going to have to get Olave again? I really don't need Olave again. How much Olave do I have? That's a good question. 11% Olave. All right. That's fine. I would have taken Devontae Smith if he had fallen right there, nice and cleanly. But I will take fucking Olave. Do I like Olave this much? I'm over on Ridley. Should I just reach for Higgins? He doesn't correlate with anything. I'll get Olave. Why am I overthinking this? He's a young player. Indoors. Better deep ball thrower at QB this year. We'll take Olave. What's my Dobbs percentage? Low. Not high on Dobbs. Feeling like I should have course corrected a little bit when I saw the stuff about Jordan Love throwing with him all offseason. Do you think that kind of matters for a guy like Dobbs who's not an elite athlete? But I'm at 7.3% Dobbs. That's not bad. But given how much Christian Watson I have, again, he's my highest exposed guy, my only one that's really like on the cusp of 30%. So I should probably have more Dobbs because of that, but I do not. I think the best Packer stack to me is like one of the running backs with Watson, with Musgrave, and obviously Love at QB. So that's put me off of Dobbs, but because I like Love enough, I should probably at least be with the field on Dobbs. 7.3% is not that far off. So all right. All love, brother. Appreciate the hard work you put in every day. Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate you, Elite Deep. And getting your workout in too. Shout out you. Shout out everybody who's working out and doing drafts. I saw the Underdog Cardio Club. A lot of people, I guess, in the Underdog Discord talking about losing weight and doing better for themselves with it. So kudos to everybody who's doing that as well. I, for some reason, like never participate, even though you could literally walk and do it, and they're not going to hold you to being like, you got to be on a Peloton or you have to be on a Stairmaster. They're happy to let you in the Underdog Cardio Club. So shout out to everybody who's done well with that. Always good to see people improving their lives while also gambling them away. Again, the icon loves an elite QB. Josh Allen here. Guy can't resist. He's the opposite of me. 23% Dobbs and 11% Watson. Okay, well, together we got a pretty good portfolio. All right, we got Cup. We got Olave. Feels like a good time for DK Metcalf share. In an industry where everybody's talking about, ADPs have moved around, you got to be more comfortable taking running backs. We come here on Splash Play. You know what we fucking do? We draft some goddamn wide receivers. Though I am happy to take a running back sometimes. Like, again, I'll highlight Bijan. I'll highlight Chubb. Tony Pollard, happy to take him. Honestly, probably shouldn't be as underweight on him as I am. But boy, nothing feels better than taking a bunch of receivers to start. And you just take Zach Charbonnet. Zach Charbonnet solves everything. I think we can all agree. Pat Walksall watching these streams every day. Oh, the Splash Play Cardio Club. Take your Spags on the go. I do think, though, for anybody out there, like if you have $15 a month, I think actually got cheaper now because they switched off of Apple payments for it. get YouTube Premium. Like, if you don't have YouTube Premium, get YouTube Premium. I'm not saying that because it helps me. Like, I think we get a fractional amount of revenue from you not watching ads, but just being able to lock your phone and use YouTube and listen to things, that's definitely upped my YouTube exposure and makes it easier to, like, I don't even use the podcast apps anymore because most stuff I want to listen to is already on YouTube. So I would give the full cosign YouTube Premium if you want to spend something here. Use promo code SPAGS. And I fucking wish. Fit for fantasy. There we go. You got to be mentally fit and you got to be physically fit. At least one of those. Makes it easy when you hit that wide receiver dead zone and all the running back sleepers come. That is true. I mean, look, I've said it on stream a bunch. I really think this is the year. And Zero RB won the regular season title last year for King Capital. So, like, that build we know did work, even though Pat obviously won the big prize pool with a robust RB, or not robust, I guess, bimodal RB with two of them early. That said, though, like, this year, because of the fact that it's just so comfy and cozy to take all the running backs early, like, if you go on a zero RB run, you're going to be different from a lot of drafters because they all have decided that it's over. They decided that it's not time anymore to do zero RB. So I'm happy to do it here. Do you think, taking a hero RB build where you get one running back in that first 2 rounds, like, that's okay too. Like, but people are doing that as well. So gets you off the beaten path, gives you some upside. And if we do see the macro that I've talked about on here, which is just what happens to fantasy football if no running back averages over 20 touches a game? We're closer to that reality than ever, guys. As each contract goes, each Dalvin Cook signs, as each Zeke signs, you're getting closer to the reality that I've been portending here on this channel for about 2 years now. So let's relish it. Open Underdog with video small and you can lock screen. Oh, there we go. There's a pro tip. I'm happy to pay for YouTube Premium. Yeah, Splash Play brought to you by YouTube. I just pretend that we're sponsored by YouTube. The only way you get on YouTube these days is if they're sponsoring your show. The sad thing is, like, that probably would work for a fraction of the audience out there. You'd be like, well, what an important show. I do kind of hope there's like a reciprocal thing from the NFL Sunday Ticket stuff being moved to YouTube, that maybe, like, maybe more people get on YouTube and then support their favorite local fantasy football content creators. All right, on the clock here. God, are we just going to fucking repeat the same draft? We all know I don't like Travis Etienne, much more of a Tank Bigsby guy. Fuck. Have you guys heard me talk about how much I like Terry McLaurin? Stop me if you've heard this one before. Still a great value at 44. Hard to argue it. And everybody else can have Etienne. They could have Joe Mixon. No, thank you. Neither guy, really, guys that I'm dying to get. And Travis Etienne, if you missed the case that we talked about here, the team has just given so much signal, both last year with, again, starting the year with James Robinson. They saw both guys in practice. They said, hey, these guys are pretty much even. We'll give them an even workload. Even some more work to James Robinson and Travis Etienne to start last year. And then middle of the year, nobody else is there because Robinson gets cut. They realize, hey, is this sunk cost? Then they realize that Travis Etienne can't pass protect, and Etienne's good weeks suddenly go by the wayside. And it's Michael Hasty out there in the most important game of the year for them against the Chiefs. That's not great for Etienne, especially when they then add Dearness Johnson. Then they add Tank Bigsby. Bad signal for Travis Etienne. And yet there's a lot of people out there who just still love him. And I get it. He came in with draft capital, but came in with draft capital from a previous regime, which just don't matter. Just don't matter. Geez, checked injuries 2 seconds. Saw Gage, Amon-Ra, and Jameson Williams all out of practice leg injuries. Some of that, too, is always going to be precautionary. Something to keep in mind with that. Obviously, the Gage one seems pretty bad based on what we've seen so far. But I don't want to panic about any of these until you know you have to panic. Amon-Ra, I've certainly pumped the bags of enough here. Think he can be a wide receiver 1 or the wide receiver 1. If Justin Jefferson, something goes weird with him, but I think like he's in that range. He's probably more of a wide receiver 2 candidate because I just don't think you can beat Jefferson. But we'll see how that goes. But like if we lose him, like that's gonna fuck up a lot. Like it's gonna fuck up Detroit. It's gonna fuck up so many game stacks. But if you assume that like Amon-Ra is going to be okay, and then Amon-Ra say like he doesn't fall here, but if you're in a room where you have like a bunch of little panicky Pete's, sorry, Pete, sorry to our Pete, bunch of little panicky Pollies, then you're going to find JSN going to find Amon-Ra St. Brown going in here. And like, if you get a discount on him and then he's fine, like that's what you want to do. So that's why I always try to worry less about injuries than the public does. All right. We've got Seattle brewing. I love JSN, but he's gone. Not going to be able to get Pickens. I think we're going to take, God. All right, we're getting different here. We're taking Deontay Johnson, who I've railed against enough, now have slowly climbed my way up back in exposures for Deontay. Oh, shit. I'm over on Deontay. Oh, fun revelation for me. I've now at 10.5% Deontay Johnson, not including this last draft. All right. What's Trey Palmer's ADP? Non-existent. Non-existent. ATN was hurt so he was hurt, but then he wasn't hurt, and then they still wanted to keep Hasty out there, and then they drafted more backs. I know people want to like do the gymnastics for any of these things, and I do too. Like I do the same thing. And again, everybody's takes were as valid in August as mine are. So like no slight to anybody who wants to defend ATN and all that stuff. He was hurt, but like he wasn't hurt in that Kansas City game as much. Like he wasn't hurt down the stretch as much. He was hurt for a few weeks, and then same injury, so maybe that's part of the caution there. But if that's the case, then he's going to have the same potential re-injury of foot risk again this year. Either way, look, you want to die on the ATN hill, you guys go ahead. I'm happy if he works out for you, but rather take Tank. You can't be over on Deontay. He's going to be stellar. I mean, I'm over in exposures, to be clear. I'm over the 8%, of course. If you're not familiar with the stuff here, and I'm sure OG1 Kenobi is, but just in case somebody out there isn't, the average exposure for anybody here, assuming a guy gets drafted in every draft, is like 8% and change. So basically, if you have more than 8% of the guy, you're over the field on the guy. If you're under 8% of the guy, you're under the field on the guy. So for Deontay, I would like to be flat, but I think I believe enough in Pickett that it's sort of driving up everything for Pittsburgh for me. And I also take enough George Pickens that I know I logically need to get some Deontay in case the Pickens thing doesn't work out exactly the way I want. Why do I love Johnson so much more than Pickens? To be clear, I have double the amount of Pickens. So I have 10.3% Deontay and 23% George Pickens, not including that last draft. So I am much more team Pickens. The logic for that would be, we know what Deontay's ceiling was. He can positively regress in terms of touchdowns and all that, but he's just kind of like this is a dated reference now. It's like a Keyshawn Johnson guy. Guys can move the sticks for you. That's an important part to have as an offense. That said, I want game breakers. I want guys who are going to get downfield and create big plays for me. That's what wins you best ball tournaments, I believe. So George Pickens is my guy there. Also a great EPA per target guy. Deontay in the same offense. Bad in those metrics. Bad in DVOA. Bad in defense adjusted yards above replacement. All that stuff is why I view Johnson as less valuable. But that said, like if you believe in Pittsburgh's offense being better, as I do, you should take the top receiver or the perceived market top receiver as well. So I'll go over the field on Deontay, but yeah, much more team Pickens. Pickens could be broke Randy Moss, could be hobo Randy Moss with how he plays. Not going to hit the same ceilings, I think, especially with Deontay there. So many different ways to carve up that offense. But in terms of the catches, what he puts on tape, I think it's in the range of outcomes for Pickens. Yeah, that's also a fair way to look at it. Johnson has more value in DK, full point PPR. Like he's more of he could get you 10 catches in a game. I don't think Pickens right now, and I know that's in his bag, maybe in the next year too. Maybe he can start to do that more. But I think Pickens, you're more looking at like 6 for 150, and Deontay, you're looking at 8 for 80, which those both have merits. Those both equal the same things. Let's make a pick here, though. Nobody falling enough for me to justify it. No, you know what? Let's take Darren Waller here. I do like the Cup Darren Waller correlation. Obviously, you could probably see my eyes wandering down here to Michael Pittman. I was thinking about it. Michael Pittman goes to short gamer instead. This does not currently look like it'll necessarily be an AR draft, but I was close. I was close to pulling the trigger there. Pickens is a human highlight reel. That's true. And sometimes, those guys can like pull the wool over your eyes. But the issue with Pickens is that, or the issue, for some people, I think, is that they view him as this like, trickster guy. Like he's a guy getting freak catches and not a guy who's like a sound route runner. And it just doesn't matter if he's adding value with his EPA per target numbers, if he's adding value above average and that stuff. It's just going to come out that he's better. And this is in his rookie year with a bad QB or a guy who played poorly last year, at least more average did Kenny Pickett play. If Pickett improves even slightly, Pickett should be better. If Pickett doesn't improve, Pickett should be better. Like that's all. He's a sleeping tiger right now who's going to have a big breakout, I think. Wow, I displayed great restraint there. Thank you. It was very hard to do. It's very hard to do, but I just can't have Pittman everywhere. Can't have Pittman everywhere, unfortunately. But I think the Waller Cup correlation, I just like that one a lot for week 17. So I'm going to get it. I've mentioned I would like to get a little bit more on Waller because I am pretty low on the under the field with him. So I'm going to do that. Still think, though, Dallas Goedert, probably a better pick overall than Darren Waller, but I've got Goddard. Would like to get some more Waller. Let's see what we do here. So we've got Rams, New Orleans, Seattle, Washington, Pittsburgh. So we have one correlation there, one correlation there. Javonte doesn't correlate with anything. But I like Javonte here. I think Javonte makes sense for this build. Javonte, a guy that I was really lucky to get a lot in the 90s and 100s. This is the benefit of it. This is a real life example, I guess. When you don't run away from injury stuff, you do get the values on these guys. And if Javonte makes this miraculous recovery that it seems like he's making, apparently going to play in the preseason game this weekend for the Broncos, he's a great pick. He's a great pick going in the 90s to 100s. Now that he's back up to the 70s, like I can take him a little bit here, but it's a luxury because I have, let me check my Javonte. At 11% Javonte, all in that cheaper range. So I like the shares of Javonte I have, but no issue getting some more, especially now that we have even more confidence in his health. Ooh, I like this take. Pickens would be Jamar Chase if he was on the Bengals. That's a spicy one. I don't know that he could be that level of a target earner, but I think, I honestly kind of like T. Higgins. He might be more efficient with his touches than Chase is in that offense. Like Higgins is the better analytic receiver than Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase earns more volume. That alone is a skill within itself. But like T. Higgins is the one who really adds value to that offense. And then Jamar Chase is not quite as good when Higgins isn't on the field, whereas Higgins is a world beater when Chase isn't on the field. So I think that's certainly possible, but man, that's spicy. I just think, guys like Pickens and Watson, if you time their ascent, if you time them moving into this first round range, and you can predict now that like Christian Watson's going to be right here next year with Garrett Wilson and Jalen Waddle and these guys at least. And then same thing for Pickens, maybe a little bit lower. Maybe he's more of a DK Metcalf range. I don't know. I think that's how you win BBM 4, I think, is those guys, like those kind of guys, even if not those specific guys. Double stacked Jaguars, but someone took Lawrence unstacked. Fun. He's going beast mode here. Beast mode 24. Yeah, that's tough. This team, he's got some Philly guys, got Giants. Yeah, welcome to August drafting, guys. If you're trying to clean your stacks up, you're trying to get your guys at reasonable ADPs, sometimes not going to happen. My team so far, Javonte Williams at running back, Cooper Kupp, Chris Olave, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, and Deontay Johnson at receiver, and then a tight end, Darren Waller. So got a good foundation to build around here, some flexibility to spam running backs, some flexibility also to perhaps pick up a few receivers if we need to. So I think this works for what I'm trying to do. Good draft, though. I'm very happy with the drafts I'm putting on here. And if you like my drafting or not, guys, either way, I think we have fun here. I'd like to believe that. Subscribe down below. Of course, Splash Play in the march to 3,000 subs. I appreciate every single person who subscribes. About 48% of the people who watch Splash Play recently, as I've been up in the volume of content here, not subscribed. So help a brother out. The subscribe button helps us make some better brand deals for ourselves. Helps me maybe find a new home for Splash Play as a free agent show. Maybe Football Outsiders comes back too. And it seems like that's a possibility for seems like it's a possibility for me. All right. Got the bet on Washington. Pacheco falling a little. Doesn't make sense with our build. I don't love reaching for Gibson. Gibson falls enough, but I think Gibson makes sense here. I've got a little bit less of him than I do Brian Robinson. Yeah, Brian Robinson, I'm at 9%. Gibson, I'm at 7.3. I think those guys are pretty close to the same play. They were certainly in their usage in that first game for Washington in the preseason. I'd rather get the cheaper Robinson for the most part, but I think Gibson makes sense to take here. Just wanting to get some running backs in because I think we did a good run at receiver to start. Have they paid up yet? Not yet, Joey. Not yet. But I did have a long call with our CEO yesterday, and look, they haven't bullshitted despite whatever former writers and stuff have been saying, and like making it a little too much of a thing on Twitter. I think even now, I do think that it's looking like we'll have a season for FO, but obviously we got 21 days to get it all aligned, so they got to pay everybody up, and then we'll go from there. But talked to our data guy today, so if they pay what we're owed, then we'll be rolling for the season, and if not, then Splash Play better fucking crush. Splash Play and probably better crush for me. Speaking of, if you want to get in on the wait list on my app, probably coming out hopefully soon. Waiting for an update from my CTO / one of my best friends from high school. Was not the one I was trolling with this shirt. Short Gamer, I don't think cared about getting sniped on AR, but he did get sniped on AR too. That's fun. Yeah, so probably coming out soon. Waitlist, problyapp.com, PROBLY app.com. And if you're an NFL fan, we're going to have some bets and stuff in there. And a write-up that I thought was really good that I did last year, which obviously was just going to a couple hundred people. But basically, I read all the NFL markets based on the true probabilities from our top sources and then write up what the markets think is going to happen in that game. And it added a lot of value for my process last year, so it might for you guys as well. But another positive feature there. All right, so we have... There's an okay value on Dylan. I do think Charbonnet makes sense here again. I have to start draft. I swear to God. So tomorrow on DraftKings, I'm going to draft a little bit more out of type. Now, though, I have noticed that I'm perhaps not, and part of my quest to be responsible with my draft portfolio, I'm perhaps not as high on some guys as I should be. So like Charbonnet is one of those guys I am, but I am trying to like tell my brain like, hey, like don't force yourself to take all these dudes just to get them. Like, so I'm over the field on Deontay now. I'm getting close to the 8% exposure on Waller. I'm walking this line. It's a little bit tough, and I'm just kind of talking through it out loud. So you guys maybe somebody out there will relate. But I'm now trying to juggle my exposures too much, I think. And sometimes I do just want to make sure to remind myself, just take Charbonnet here. You have the bet on Seattle with DK Metcalf. We have the bring back for week 17 with Deontay Johnson. So just take Charbonnet, even though I've got a lot of Charbonnet and like I shouldn't go in that heavy. Back from a work meeting. How's my Spag Daddy doing? Building another sick team. The team so far for our guy Bullock, Javonte Williams, Antonio Gibson, Zach Charbonnet at running back, a receiver, Cooper Kupp, Chris Olave, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, and a tight end, Darren Waller. Nice even build here. That read just for Bullock. Of course, another member here of the Splash Play family. And Short Gamer did in fact want AR. Sorry, bud. Short Gamer catching the snipes today. No better feeling of locking up your QB, which I think is also part of the psychology of this all. Part of why like people reach so much for QBs and all that stuff is just for that peace of mind. Like if they like to stack, then they know like, my stack is done. I could finally rest. I think that's sort of how they view it. A classic kind of Thanos approach for that. It's like, I've snapped my fingers and deleted half the world. Now I could finally rest. That's how some people feel, I think, about grabbing their QBs or a QB. And unfortunately, in August in particular, I think you're running into that more where you're always going to benefit from trying to push your QBs to a certain extent. But when people reach for them, casual drafters like to reach for QBs. Happens a lot more. Been having a hard time chasing Waller up the board. He flipped Kittle on DK. It happened so fast. And that was something I think Pete talked about in one of his streams earlier in the week where he's like, why is Waller coming up? Waller had, if you read Giants beat articles, like every beat article was like, Waller's the best receiver on the field. Waller catching a pass. Waller, like, so that's why people heard that. And then they're going there. Maybe also a little bit of Giants love from people. I don't know. But I think that's why Waller's come up so much. And I think it's a good sign that he's gotten that many good camp reports. That certainly put me on him a little bit more after he burned me so bad last year. If you're taking Waller in the 50s, though, like you can get him in the 70s in some rooms. So I think that's where I would push back on Waller. Is like, I want to get more too, but I think you got to be a little more mindful of him. All right, we'll pick 116. I don't see anybody here that taking them would add a lot of material value here. So I'm just going to lock up this stack. Again, at ADP, would be nice to push Daniel Jones, but in this room with people getting sniped left and right, I'm not going to do it. So we get Daniel Jones at QB. So Jones, Javonte Williams, Antonio Gibson, Zach Charbonnet at running back, receiver, Cooper Kupp, Chris Olave, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, and Darren Waller. So you've completed one stack here of the Giants. Solid team. The Kupp and Waller of it make it different from my usual. So I think that also makes sense for me. Would like to get a Charger in at some point. But we'll see. We'll see how the board aligns for that. Anybody else doing anything interesting besides Short Gamer getting sniped over and over again? Short Gamer's build is fun to watch too, if you want to see another extreme 0RB team. And you could also see the issues too with this, like in particular of getting sniped, where because you go 0RB early, if you don't get one of these guys, so like because of his build, he couldn't get Burrow necessarily and have this run at receiver. And then because he got sniped on Lawrence, and then you're going to have a hard time sometimes getting Geno where you want him to. That's the one risk of an extreme 0RB is you might not be able to complete 2 stacks with those receivers. But yeah, that's the one downside I would say out of that kind of build. People also reach on QBs unstacked, which is weird too. Yeah, that would be another thing. You know, we talked about my 3 tips for what to do for best ball in general if you're just hopping in and don't know what you're doing. But for this as well, like just, yeah, reaching for QBs unstacked is like a big one. I know there was a period where I was like going into Pittsburgh. It's starting to get a little more comfortable with taking Pickens a lot. And then it would always be like, oh yeah, this guy took Kenny Pickett unstacked for no reason. People loved Kenny Pickett unstacked, which I don't really get. All right. Nothing we got to go up and grab yet. This honestly kind of an interesting Jamal Williams team because we have a little bit of a bet on New Orleans. And I don't take a lot of Jamal Williams. Or I could just take Tank. Yeah, you know what? I passed on ATN. Let's take Tank here. Jamal might fall back to me because people don't like Jamal. If that's the case, I'll take him there. But I don't need to take Jamal Williams at ADP for a correlation. But I do need a running back either way. So we'll see what comes back on the other side of the board. Nobody doing anything too interesting besides Short Gamer, I don't think. It's not a crazy draft, I have to say. Like, this is a pretty, like, sane room we've had. We've been lucky to get some really weird rooms lately, but this is not one of them. Our guy Matt Murphy in the chat takes Jamal, so that dream dies. Might be another Kendre build for me as a result. Yeah, I think Matt had to hit running back at this point, actually. So that's why I took Jamal, looks like. I know it's dependent on the capital you spend on them, but what is a good amount of running backs to shoot for? I always take too many wide receivers. That's the tough part. And that was the thing that I observed from some of my teams last year with building zero RB was that I would just take too many receivers. Like if you're building zero RB, the point of that is that you use less capital overall at the position. Even if you take a bunch early, it's like you got to dial back at some point. So for me, it's like 7 max and these kind of builds. Like in a Short Gamer's build, he has the flexibility here where he could not take another receiver or he could take one like in the 15th round or later. I think feels about right. But I would say if you're going extreme 0RB 6, if you're not going extreme 0RB, I would try to get 7. And then if you are like overall, like try to get 4 receivers through 7 rounds, try to get 5 through 10. If not a little bit more, like maybe 5 through 8 or so would be what I would try to strive for. Must be a bad dream if you're dreaming of Jamal Williams. That's true. Though he can dance, though. He is the swag daddy, so he can shake those hips. So maybe it just depends on the kind of dream you're having for old Jamal Williams. Russell Gage officially confirmed out for the season. Somebody had asked earlier too. So in the beginning of the offseason, Trey Palmer was running in 3 receiver sets when Gage was banged up to start the year, and now obviously he's out for the year. So Trey Palmer should be out there from day one. I think he's a better boundary receiver. Like the part that appealed to me for him coming out of Nebraska from his numbers, so he was so good running outside in a class where like you had Quentin Johnston, you had Mims, and you had Trey Palmer as like the only guys, Xavier Hutchinson, I guess, maybe. It's the only guys who could really run outside as like a big bodied receiver. But Trey Palmer just getting on the field early is a positive. And I think, again, if the Bucs go into tank mode, if they're like, hey, we want Caleb Williams, we want Drake May, I think you see Trey Palmer out there running a lot of routes by the end of the year, and you see Mike Evans out with a hamstring, and you see Chris Godwin out with a knee, and it's like that's how these teams do it. But if I had to make a bet, I think it's that Bucks not in contention, and Godwin out, Evans out, Trey Palmer wide receiver 1 on a bad team. Jamal wants to be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch him was my real test, but Matt got him instead. Jamal is a very likable person, at least. You got to think New Orleans is going to love him. You got to think that. He's going to be like, he's a charismatic dude. Like, hard to argue with that. And Detroit loved him too. It's kind of surprised he didn't come back to Detroit as like a mascot, but I think they felt like they improved with Montgomery, and it's kind of hard to argue that. All right. So we have all these assholes. Got a bunch of dudes to pick from. I don't have enough Marvin Mims, and I do like Marvin Mims a lot. Sometimes as simple as that. Was very high on Mims pre-draft, had a lot of shares of Mims pre-draft. Then he came up a little bit higher than I was comfortable with, but now we're in a pretty good situation for him, so I'll take him. Only 4% Marvin Mims for me, so probably missed the best buying window for Mims. Tim Patrick is hurt and done for the year as well. We loved him in Green Bay too. Number 1 locker room guy, all the press said. I mean, those are the guys. Those are the guys that honestly that end up with a longer career because, like, especially at running back, where it's such a position that you could probably have, I don't know, 50% of the running backs that are available to sign with an NFL team do what Jamal Williams did last year. But because he's so likable and because he's so has a specific skill set as like a sledgehammer back who can catch some passes and protect okay, he just stays on teams, stays getting contracts. So kudos to him. Hard to argue that. I don't think he's going to have like the same upside as he had last year in Detroit. A lot of that I think was so situational, whereas like Swift just couldn't get the goal line touches. And then also like you had guys like a Monra going down the 1 yard line inside the 5 so often. In New Orleans, you know, that could still happen, I guess, with like a Chris Olave gets the downfield shot, doesn't punch it in. Michael Thomas doesn't punch it in. I don't know. But it feels like it's hard to thread that needle again for him this year. Another year older with guys like Kendra there and Kamara. But still draftable. Like still draftable if you line it up right. All right, we got a 1-4-6-1. We do need a second QB. And there's one that's very obvious for me right now. All right, I'm just going to get Derek Carr here. Not risk it with what we've seen, with sniping, with nuttiness. I'm just going to take Derek Carr very slowly and walk away. How you doing today, Spags? Ask Primetime KG. I appreciate that. I'm doing okay. It's been a productive morning for me so far. Worked out. Did a call with our Football Outsiders data guy to see what we got to put in place if we can salvage the season, if they come through and pay us. So feeling okay about things. And I'm getting a draft with you guys. And I appreciate everybody watching live. So hard for me to argue. It's been a series of good days. Besides me getting the baby addicted to Bluey and my wife very mad at me as a result. Been a solid few days for me. Who are we talking about? Bull's a defensive guy who would win every game 10-7 if he could. That's a fair point. They were, talking about the Bucks here. They were number 5 in pass rate over expectation last year. Could be a Brady thing. I would think that Tampa Bay being that high over pass rate over expectation rather is definitely a Brady thing. He had so much power in that organization. I would agree with the take that I think a Todd Bowles would love to win 10-7 if he can. If not, honestly, their only route to success this year might be grinding out the game. One of the guys who I like a lot in the analytics space, Eric Eager, who was at PFF and now is at Sumer Sports, and they do a lot of interesting stuff with data studies with the former Falcons GM, Tom Dimitroff over there. He was talking yesterday about like with some teams, you in general, you always want to pass more. In general, that's the more analytically sound thing is to pass the ball downfield. It's just better. Like at our company at Edge Sports as well, the parent company of FO, Football Outsiders. Like we have a model that has all the years of data in the NFL and then adjusts for the modern era and all of that. And it's like you can go through and there are teams that paid us for it last year, including the Chiefs, paid for that access last year. And it tells you like, oh, what do you do in a 4th and 5? Like if you're on the 50-yard line, what do you do? Usually the answer is go for it. That's the analytically sound move. But Eric Eager was saying if you're a bad team and you can't pass the ball, like you just run it. You just run it over and over again because that's safer and you're just less likely to blow that up and have the bad side of the analytics. So For a team like the Bucks, like that's why I like Rachaad White, is because I think the Bucks are going to stink. And I think that Todd Bowles and everybody's going to know that pretty fast and just go, all right, let's just check this down. Like, for the love of God, let's run out the clock on the season and just keep checking down to Rachaad White or Chase Edmonds or Keyshawn Vaughn, whatever, Sean Tucker, whatever they trot out there. There we go. Matt going contrarian. Bucks are going to pass a ton. Baker MVP. Primetime KG. Yeah, if you want to ask me something, pause Kingdom Discord if you're on Pete's thing, or send a DM. If you're asking me to review something, no, you got to be a Splash Play member, because I ain't doing work for free. Well, not any more than I already have for 4 months. The Bears beat the Falcons in lowest pass rate over expectation. Impressive. Pass rate over expectation is just an interesting stat overall. Absolutely. It's not a be-all, end-all. I think it's more important when we get into the season to see who's doing that a little bit more, because some of those things can change. Like, I think the Chargers were the best example of that, where they were so aggressive and so like analytically forward in terms of pass rate, in terms of going forward on fourth down. And then like Brandon Staley got browbeaten by the LA media and I guess the national football media. And then he stopped taking those risks as much and then went to that really check down heavy offense last year. And now he's trying to find the middle ground with them bringing in Kellen Moore as an offensive coordinator. But it is something that changes a little bit year to year. Like, if the Dolphins D this year with Vic Fangio, if they're a lot better, I think that you see, Mike McDaniel get a little bit less aggressive with that, but hopefully not too less aggressive. All right, we got a 2-4-6-1. Definitely still need some RBs. Need one more tight end, but I don't think we need it yet. Am I just going to take fucking Kendra again? I really don't want to. Let's take Taysom Hill. This is a Taysom Hill kind of build, because we're capturing touchdowns here. We didn't get one of the other running backs. I feel like if I'm not going to take Kendra, and I'm willing to take Kendra if he falls to me again, but I think this is a way to get around not having a New Orleans running back, is just saying that instead Taysom Hill sucks up the running back touches. Chris Olave is the outlier receiver. And maybe tack on a Rashid Shaheed late. Maybe. Got some outs. Am I doing DK tomorrow? Yes, tomorrow will be the DraftKings day. And I will swear by the content of one of these DraftKings streams I've been doing, because I keep getting really, really fucked over in these DraftKings streams, to the point where I'm literally like throwing my hat because I'm getting sniped on QBs taken 6 rounds ahead of where they normally go. So I would advocate, Tony knows here, but make sure to come back tomorrow for that DraftKings stream, which will be around the same time tomorrow. And I'm probably going to do 2 DK drafts tomorrow. Honestly, I've been enjoying doing 2 drafts rather than hopping off. So I'll probably stick with that game plan and do 2 DK drafts tomorrow and regret it instantly. Is how that's going to go. Shot over a DM, nothing at all to do with player football side. Okay. I didn't need to read this out loud prime time, but when I'm reading the chats, I do usually read them out loud. But yeah, I'll get back to you. Don't worry about it. The coin is multi-tabling, and I don't think he likes his other team. Is he doing one of those things where he ruins the draft? That's something I learned from social media that I guess happens a little bit more than I would realize, is people ruining drafts because they're mad at whatever things lined up. So then they'll just spam picks and try to get the draft thrown out. So don't do that. All right. So Kendra fell back to us. I can't pass up Kendra at 173. He's too good of a back to be at 173. I know sometimes people critique me a little bit for loving rookie running backs too much, but like last year, again, I beat the drum for one guy. I beat the drum really heavily for Tyler Algier. And this year I have 4 different rookie running backs who I'm close to my Tyler Algier exposure on, because there's a lot of guys who landed in really good spots with really good metrics. And Kendra is one of those guys. So it's Roshan, it's Kendra, it's Devin Achane, Zach Charbonnet. Of course, it's Zach Charbonnet. Tank, less analytically sound, but Auburn sucked. So you kind of give him some grace. I think this injury hurts him a decent amount. I agree that it hurts him in terms of perception. I don't think it should hurt him as much as it should. Again, it sucks. It's the same knee. Like I guess you don't want it to be the other knee, but in some respects, like, okay, it's the same knee you hurt in the college football playoff in January. That's not a great thing. But I still am always going to err on the side of like, let's just absorb the risk of the injury, because if the run good is good, you're just getting that advantage on people that don't want to make the click because the guy has had an injury. And I think that's the biggest edge you can give yourself in every single draft. It's just saying, okay, I'll absorb the risk. I won't absorb the risk maybe on a 35-year-old guy. Like if Travis Kelce were coming off of an ACL tear, I would be less inclined to take him in the first round, I would say. But if you're getting a young guy at running back and you're getting him at this range and he's part of a portfolio here where last draft he was my 6th running back, here's my 5th running back. We have some guys to start the year with some amount of a floor. I think that's where Kendre makes sense, but it's still about balancing that RB room though. Like you want to have a little bit of coverage where if Kendre starts the season slow, maybe gets a little bit longer than needed to get healthy from that sprain, then have some guys to produce at that point. No, you're Adam. These points are completely fair. Completely fair. Yeah, like I want guys out there. Like you want guys to earn the role. Same thing with Michael Mayer. Like the reason Michael Mayer is so cheap right now is not because he's not good. It's because he hasn't had that buzzworthy thing that's happened. He's been out of practice. It's been really weird about them talking to, not really saying why he's out of practice. But he's been out of practice. Didn't play in a preseason game yet. But because of that, he's so cheap. So if you absorb the risk on some of that stuff, and then he comes back in and he's a world beater, even if it takes him a few weeks, like that's the upside, I think. But you're right. Like you want to see the guys do it. You want to see the guys do it, but I'm happy to kind of take the risk on guys and hope that I can project them and how they're going to do it. And that's hopefully, hopefully I'm right. Hopefully we're all right. A guy at Short Gamer is talking about as a 3-6-5-3 with Jameson as his wide receiver 3. That's good. Anytime your wide receiver 3 is going to miss a substantial portion of games right away. Gotta love it. Low-key overweight on Mayer, not on purpose, but I like it. Picasso. If you get AR, honestly, if you get AR, take Mayer as your tight end over Jelani Woods. Take him over Kylan Granson. Jelani is just still hurt. I haven't checked the reports today, but he just hasn't been practicing with the hamstring stuff. That's not great. Mayer, though, is like potentially... Like he's potentially Travis Kelce. Like I don't, that's obviously hyperbole, but like in terms of what he put up in college, if any guy is going to be Travis Kelce, it's him, it's Kincaid, to a lesser extent, Laporta. All right. So I don't think we need a third QB here. There's a pretty nice value for Matt Stafford though. We got a 2.562. As long as there's anybody here we like need to get. I don't take a lot of Matt Stafford, but I'm going to do it here. So the team so far, Daniel Jones, Derek Carr, Matt Stafford at QB, Javonte Williams, Antonio Gibson, Zach Charbonnet, Tank Bigsby, Kendre Miller at running back, receiver, Cooper Kupp, Chris Olave, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, and Marvin Mims, and then a tight end, Darren Waller, Taysom Hill, probably a 3 tight end build as well. We got 2 more picks, so we'll see what we do. Oh boy, Adam, you are preaching to the choir, man. Brock Bowers will be my most drafted tight end next year. If these rookie tight ends have a good year this year, I think Brock Bowers is going to go. I think Brock, like, again, it's contingent because people have been so down on rookie tight ends, and there's a lot of people out there. Our pal John Daigle over at 4 for 4, who I think, like, I love the work he puts in and all of that, but I think he looks a lot at the longitudinal back stuff and doesn't look as much at the forward stuff. If rookie tight ends crush this year, you're going to see Brock Bowers go probably around Hawkinson range next year, I would think. Probably depends a little bit on the tight end meta, but Brock Bowers is like the best prospect maybe ever. Like maybe he's been doing it for 2 years now. Like the best tight end in college football from the moment he stepped on the field. That's an exciting guy. So if you're not familiar with the name, you know, like I don't watch college football regularly besides USC games, but Brock Bowers I've been following, and he is an exciting dude at tight end who's going to be one of those guys. Like this is a sea change at the position that people have to get used to. All right, we got 2 more picks here. I think Darius Slayton makes perfect sense for this team. So Darius Slayton for our Daniel Jones correlation. Obviously, you've got a little bit of a Rams stack going. Not a big one. I might add on a Rams running back late if there's one available. Feeling good about that. Is this like, you know, man, I don't want to like pat myself in the back. These teams haven't won anything yet. They haven't even fucking advanced or scored any points in week 1. Well, I'm liking these teams I'm building lately. Like, I'm feeling good about these. So hopefully you guys are too when you're building your teams at home. Bowers is a mix of Kittle and Kelce. UGA fans, I've been calling him Kittle 2.0 since the first game of his freshman year. Yeah, the catch and run stuff looks great for him. I actually think I have his numbers in here because I was trying to compare him to the guys that are in the class right now. Yeah, so Bowers, okay, so yeah, Bowers, what I love, a 30% avoided tackle rate for him. So that's so much for a tight end, but he's doing it on 21 routes per game and 6 targets per game. And this is last year's numbers. He and Darnell Washington were both great, but Bowers, so Darnell running limited routes, which is going to inherently make his advanced numbers look a little bit better. 0.39 EPA per target. Bowers is on the field more, targeted more. Bowers had a 0.562 EPA per target. He also, running out wide, had a 0.753 EPA per target. Running out of the slot, 0.32. So like positive metrics everywhere you put this guy. Just Bowers is a monster. And then again, a 30% avoided tackle rate. That would put him behind Sam Laporta in this class, who broke a lot of tackles, as Iowa tight ends seem to do, actually. Him and Kittle, same thing. But yeah, Bowers, man, Bowers does everything. He does everything that you want out of a fantasy tight end and a real life tight end. I agree. Pitts is tight end 4 by ADP in 2021, if I recall. How does Bowers compare as a prospect? And then, yeah, Adam answered that here. I think maybe a little more. We'll see how the athletics test. I think Pitts had a little more of the athletic profile that people are like obsessed with in terms of being a freak there. But Bowers, I might be underrating. Adam would probably know better than me. I might be underrating the athletic profile of Bowers by a little. But he was one of those guys that came in like he was a top prospect in high school for years too. Someone took Baker. Matt, looks like you're going to have to take a little Kyle Trask for yourself. I guess you can get away. Yeah, no. Geno and Tannehill for Matt here in this slot. Yeah, you probably do need a third QB with Tannehill as your QB too. They might be doing you a favor by taking Baker. If you take Kyle Trask, I think you're getting the week 17 starter, if not the week 1 starter. Oh, never. Kyle Trask is good at Florida. Bowers probably run 4.5 at 230. Yeah, it would look good. That'd put him in Musgrave range. Geno smashing all year. Again, this is what Matt wanted to draft Baker Mayfield because he was worried about Geno not smashing all year. And then instead, he's going to have to talk himself into it. All right, I think this is a time for one of very few shares, if any, I have of Kyren Williams. We did take Stafford. I do think that we don't need an 8th receiver. Could use a 6th running back more, so we're going to go that way and take Kyren Williams. I think you can make the case for this lineup that maybe you do take a Puka, maybe you do take a Tutu Atwell, but I'm going to take a shot on Kyren just because I don't like him very much, and I do think this is where he makes the most sense. So my final team here, Daniel Jones, Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford at QB. Not very mobile QB room besides Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones will carry a lot with his rushing. At running back, Javonte Williams, Antonio Gibson, Zach Charbonnet, Tank Bigsby, Kendre Miller, and Kyren Williams as the late flyer there. Cooper Kupp, Chris Olave, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Marvin Mims, Darius Slayton. A solid wide receiver room. Obviously going to be carried a lot by this top 5. And then a tight end. We got Darren Waller and Taysom Hill. Maybe should have gone a third tight end over Kyren Williams. But Waller, I guess if he's elite, he's smashing. He makes the lineup most weeks. Taysom makes the other times. I don't love the bet. I don't love a Taysom in a 2 tight end build, but we got it. Matt saying, sauce my team. It's my birthday. I'm so bad at saucing teams unless they really make me angry. Matt takes Travis Kelce. We just talked about. He's going to hurt his knee. He's going to be out for the year. Devontae Adams. He's going with the all old guy team here. Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, all the people that are Tyler Lockett, literally Chris Godwin. So he is going with the dustiest team to celebrate Matt aging before our eyes. He's drafting a team entirely of mummy wide receivers. David Montgomery, Treylon Burks will be the young guy there until he gets hurt in week 3. And that'll be a tough one for him. Geno Smith, anytime you get him stacked up with Tyler Lockett for a guy who's being overpaid and a guy who's going to be literal dust any day now, you got to do that. And then for running backs, you got Jamal Williams, so he can dance and not do anything useful fantasy-wise. You unfortunately don't get points for his sick crotch grabbing. Jerome Ford here, he's hurt. He's no Nick Chubb. I think we can all agree there. Gus Edwards, Ryan Tannehill, the rich man's Malik Willis, and Calvin Austin, who one highlight for Calvin Austin, 2 first names. There you go. All right, so all right. I'm glad that was an adequate saucing. It's Pete's bit. He's the best at it, but try our best here. Of course, we are always going to try our best here. 5 days a week of drafts here on Splash Play. So please be sure to subscribe down below. Hit the like button, leave a comment. You want to talk about anything, you got a question, please leave it down in the comments below. Happy to answer. I answer every single comment personally. I care about what you guys are doing here. I care about what you are saying because you are kind enough to spend some time with me. So please feel free. Anything you want to drop in down below, do that. Of course, like the video, subscribe down below as well. Follow me at Chris Spags. Use the promo code SPLASH to double your deposit, $100 or up to $100 on Underdog. Great way to build that bankroll. And of course, if you are gambling too much, check this stuff here too. Underdog cares about you, and I do too. Again, follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at Splash Play Pod. And I'll be back with you guys tomorrow, tilting over DraftKings. That is the promise here. So I will see you guys then. Enjoy your days. Of course, good luck. Bye.